Welcome, everybody. Thank you, thank you. It was Francis of Assisi, founder of the Franciscan order, who commented, "For it is in giving that we receive. For it is giving that we receive." And I thought that sentiment apropos as we enter the holiday season, to think about the fact that you derive happiness and fulfillment not from accumulation of items, but in sharing generosity and compassion. So remember that over the coming weeks as you're bombarded with whatever you're going to be bombarded with during this season, as a reminder about giving. On behalf of Boston College and the Carroll School of Management, welcome to the Boston College Chief Executives Club. Thank you. So Francis of Assisi took a vow of poverty and dedicated his life to the service of others. And in doing so, recognized that by giving, he learned and improved the world. And so I continue to remind you that it's not the act of receiving, but passing along friendship, compassion, because doing so builds community. And compassion will multiply. Something that traditions across the globe have recognized and even been picked up by Dr. Seuss and the Grinch. Perhaps that's the meaning of this holiday season. You'll note in the back of the program, we have commitments for 3 speakers in 2025. In March, we will welcome FedEx. In May, Abbott Laboratories. And in June, McKinsey & Company. We also hope to announce soon a couple more commitments and dates that we will share with you for 2025. Now, on to today. Our host, of course, is our friend, Joe Preston, the president and CEO of New Balance. New Balance is a $6.5 billion global sportswear company that has been predicated upon using a value-led culture and investing in domestic manufacturing. Joe has been a leader in this industry for over 30 years in consumer retail and manufacturing. He attended Merrimack College as an undergrad and got his MBA from Babson College, although I suspect his biggest claim to fame is forging this wonderful partnership with Boston College. And so for that, we are deeply appreciative. Of course, our keynote speaker, Ryan McInerney, the CEO of Visa. Ryan joined Visa in 2013, was named CEO in 2023, following the footsteps of our friend Al Kelly, who is a former speaker for us here, proud Boston College alum, and parent to a Boston College student. Ryan, before joining Visa, spent time as CEO for consumer banking for JP Morgan Chase, and was a principal at McKinsey. I'm not sure where he went to college. A quick Google search showed something about South Bend, but it's not sticking with me. I can't remember where. And before I welcome them onto the stage, as I revert back to our quote about giving, perhaps the best thing that we could all do is use our Visa cards to purchase something from New Balance to spread the joy. Please welcome Joe and Ryan to the stage.
Thank you, Ryan. I was going to ask you if there's a possibility that you could shut off a couple of my family members from their Visa access, just through the holidays, maybe.
We'll try to help in any way we can. It's great to be here. Great group, amazing companies, amazing people, amazing city, and it's a privilege to be here today.
So Warren talked a little bit about your background, and I wonder if you could just expound on it in a little bit and talk about your experiences and how it prepared you when you became CEO.
Sure. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. good Midwest town. My wife and I both grew up there. I've known her since we were 8 years old. I went to school, as mentioned, in South Bend, Indiana, go Irish. And after school, I worked at McKinsey. And while I was a young partner at McKinsey, my two main clients were what's now JP Morgan and what's now Visa. I've known Visa for a very long time, long before it was a public company. I spent several years leading a global effort at McKinsey to define a strategy for Visa that was ultimately a recommendation to take the company public, which is what happened in 2008. I then went to work at JP Morgan, and I was always in and around the retail bank there, so I was one of Visa's largest clients. My partners and colleagues at Visa would say I was maybe kind of a pain in the ass as a client, but I've lived in the chair of a Visa client. I know kind of what it means to be served well and not served well, and then I joined Visa in 2013. So I feel, I've had a somewhat unique set of experiences that have always been in and around this company, and I just feel an enormous privilege to now have the opportunity to lead the company.
Any individuals in your past that you think have helped pave the way for you, or things you've learned from?
Oh, tons of individuals. I mean, you mentioned Al Kelly, who I know is very familiar in this room. Our CEO before him was a gentleman named Charlie Scharf that I'd worked with for many years at JP Morgan, and so many others. Like a lot of you in the room, I assume. I'm only here today because a number of leaders took a bet on me, they took a risk on me, and I did my best to deliver for them and serve them, and I deeply appreciate the opportunities that so many different leaders have given me.
So Visa is a very successful company, and I should say, the thing that really is incredible is the view that you have of the consumer, greater than the Fed, greater than anyone, and I'm just wondering how you look at that, and tell us a little bit about what you're seeing.
Yeah, it is. It's a great privilege to have the data that we have, which is really just a reflection of the business that we run in 200 countries and territories all around the world. And when we see the trillions of dollars in spending that we see every year and the hundreds of billions of transactions that we see every year, it gives us a good pattern to try to understand what's happening. And you mentioned the Fed. We do everything we can to share that information with central bankers all around the world to help them make the most educated decisions they can make. Listen, if I had to summarize where the world is right now through the eyes of the consumer, it's pretty good. I think if we'd have been here 18 months ago, we all would have been very worried about at the end of 2024 what could have happened. Here in the US and in many markets around the world, in general, consumers remain very strong financially. Employment's very strong. Spending on our network, spending growth on our network has been consistent for quite a while now. In the US, spending growth in our business is growing at 5 or 6% year over year. Outside the US, spending growth on our business is growing about 10% year over year. Those numbers have been pretty consistent for 18, 24 months now. So I think there's pockets of strength and weakness around the world, but overall, consumer spending is in a very good place, and I think especially here in the U.S., consumers remain resilient and strong and employed and spending with their Visa cards.
So a lot of innovation that's taking place. Technology is disrupting every industry. FinTech obviously is a big area within the world that you compete in. Mm-hmm. And just wondering how you think about that space versus developing stuff internally and through acquisition or investment.
Yeah, I think the tidal wave of FinTech in the US and around the world has been outstanding. The level of innovation that we're seeing in banking and in payments and in financial services and in lending and in payroll and everything around that, it's been something I think we'll look back on a generation from now as an extraordinarily important inflection point. For us, one of our biggest assets is this network that we've got. This network that has 4+ billion cards and 150 million plus sellers around the world and processes transactions in milliseconds with 6.9 reliability and those types of things. And we made a very important strategic decision about 10 years ago to open up our network, to become a platform that anyone that wanted to build new commerce experiences or new banking or payments experiences around the world would want to build on our network. So we invited them, rather than to have to go rebuild this network that we built, we invited them to come build on Visa. And you jump forward 10 years to today, I think if you look around Boston, you look around the United States, you look around the world, most of the most successful fintechs, even many of the big successful big tech players, have chosen to build their services on the Visa network because they value the reliability, they value the reach, they value the brand, and we invited them and we opened up our network for them to build on VisaNet. So that was an important strategic decision for us. I think our business today looks radically different than it would have looked if we hadn't made that decision. And our network of clients and partners, of course, includes big banks, but it includes fintechs and buy now, pay later companies and crypto exchanges, the Stripes and the Adyen's and the Squares of the world. We have a much more diverse client base, and I'm very proud about how we and our team has enabled a lot of that innovation.
Yeah. So a culture of innovation within your company. How would you describe the culture within Visa?
We have a culture of innovation. We have a culture of team first partnership collaboration. We have a very client-driven culture. I like to say we don't have factories. We don't manufacture anything. We don't distribute, physical products that people buy with trucks driving around. We are in business because our clients choose to do business with us.
Yeah.
And our clients could choose their mind like that. So we come into work every day in service of our clients with a real client-driven mindset. And then absolutely innovation. One of our leadership principles is all about having our teams dream big and design and build the future of commerce. And, as the leader globally, in the United States and globally in commerce, we view it as an important responsibility for us to drive that innovation, to lead from the front, and to have teams that can think big enough, to design new innovations and products that can affect billions of people. And it takes a different type of mindset and a different type of leader who's willing to really think big enough and bold enough about the types of innovations that can affect billions of lives globally across the world. And we try to instill that culture across the company.
So you talked a lot about within that, your leadership attributes. How would people describe your leadership style?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I am on a journey to be a servant-driven leader. And I describe it as a journey because it's absolutely that. It's every day I'm working harder to understand what it is that our market teams need around the world, what it is that our clients are asking of them around the world. I try to find ways to remind both myself and my team that we come into work every day in service of our country leaders and our market teams around the world. We just opened up a new building in San Francisco where we all come into work every day. I would love to have anybody visit. If you're ever in San Francisco, please come visit us. And when we opened it, we put up a big sign that says Visa Market Support Center. It's not our headquarters, it's our Market Support Center, so that I'm reminding our teams every day when they're coming into work and they see that sign and they go through the turnstile, like they are coming into work in service of our teams in Mexico and in Singapore and Argentina and Germany and those types of things. And I really work really hard to progress on that journey every day. Beyond that, I try to be aspirational. I try to set very high aspirations for the company. I try to be accountable. I try to be authentic, and I try to be approachable. I think it's the job of the CEO to set the North Star and to set the very high goals and to help people get there. I think our teams want leaders that are authentic, that they can relate to, that they believe, quite honestly. I want my team to know that I'm accountable. I think in my experiences, I've worked for amazing leaders, and I've borrowed a lot of their attributes and tried to incorporate that into what I do. I must tell you, some of the leaders that I've been around and seen that have disappointed me most are those that aren't accountable. They're those that try to duck it when it really lands on their desk. And so I try to be accountable, and I try to be approachable because I want the bad news. I want to know what we're doing wrong. I want to know the mistakes that we're making, that I'm making personally.
Yeah.
And what I found is if I just can be approachable and encourage a 25-year-old person who's worked at Visa for a couple of years to walk into my office or grab me in the hallway and tell me what we're screwing up, we're going to be better. And so I really try to focus on being open and approachable and inviting that feedback from our team members.
Interesting, very good. Just getting back to disruption, crypto is obviously in the news a lot and has been. Where do you see it going?
Yeah, that's so crypto. I would put crypto in a couple different buckets. One is Bitcoin or things like it, and we have a team of people that are coming into work, spending time every day trying to figure out, like, is Bitcoin ultimately going to become a currency as it's branded, or is it really just going to become a store of value? So far, it's really been the latter. Having said that, we've tried to innovate in the Bitcoin space and in the crypto space more broadly. So kind of a little bit back to our conversation about fintech a minute ago, if you're a customer of any of the big crypto exchanges, whether it's Coinbase or Crypto.com or anyone, if you've got $10,000 in Bitcoin on account and you go buy a flat screen TV or a pair of New Balance sneakers for $100, you don't need to go convert your Bitcoin into fiat currency, into dollars, and go buy those sneakers. You just use your Coinbase Visa card. You just use your Crypto.com Visa card. The exchange, we've embraced the exchanges as partners, and we've enabled them for their users and the ability to go buy a pair of tennis shoes and not have to worry about it. We'll do the conversion from Bitcoin to dollars kind of in real time in the cloud and allow them to walk in or out of a Foot Locker and go to newbalance.com. And so we've tried to lean in and, again, make our platform available to the crypto community as well. Then I would say, another interesting part of the crypto space is the so-called stable coins. For example, dollar-denominated stable coins. There's several of them. One of them would be USDC as an example. I think there's some potentially interesting use cases for stable coins that are starting to emerge. Cross-border commerce, B2B commerce. I think certainly in some markets with very high inflation or scarcity of fiat currency in those markets. And our view on all of this is, if there is a way that people want to pay for things or be paid by things, and that's somewhere in the crypto space, whether it be stable coins or other types of coins, we want to be involved. And we think we have things that we can bring to the party to help.
Yeah. So personally, I feel like I'm aging myself when I pull out cash, if I'm anywhere right now. And I'm just wondering how you think about that in parts of the world that are using more cash than others, and how that fits into when you think about your growth plans.
Yeah. So, in many parts of the world, there remain enormous amounts of cash that are used. Certainly in many of the emerging markets, but it would surprise some of you in the room to know, even in markets like Germany or Japan or Italy or Spain, there's still a lot of cash that remains. And those markets, there's huge opportunity for us. In other markets, I think we've done a very good job enabling the digitization of payments, and it's great to hear you say you feel uncomfortable using cash. That's kind of, we're doing our job in some way, shape, or form. In those markets, we've found new ways to grow. So we've expanded from our traditional segment of business to consumer payments, and we've taken our network and our brand and our capabilities to expand out into business to business payments, person to person payments, business to consumer payments. If you're an Uber driver or a Lyft driver, at the end of the day, you want to get paid. You don't want to wait for your salary in 2 weeks. You can press a button and have that day's salary pushed to your Visa card. So that's an example of a business to consumer payment. So we found great ways to accelerate our growth through new segments. We've also found great ways to accelerate our growth by delivering value-added services to our clients and partners, helping them process payments, adjudicate risk, reduce fraud, those types of things. So the opportunities for us, we see as significant, whether it be in kind of countries that still have a lot of cash left, where we can do a lot of digitization like we have in other markets, and expanding through other segments. We call them new payment flows in markets where there's still cash, but not as much as there used to be.
With the market changing and disruptive forces, technology, all of that, and you needing to be innovative, I'm just wondering, like internally, how do you structure groups? How do you structure the organization to try to run the business and change the business at the same time?
So we have, we have two different types of innovations we're trying to drive in the broadest sense. On the one hand, when we have conviction about something, when we really believe that we have something we can put out into the world and affect billions of people, like I was mentioning earlier, we have product and engineering teams that are building those products and services to be truly global. We want to distribute them into 200 countries and territories around the world, and they need to work. They need to work at absolute scale. And so we have teams of people that are coming into work every day, and those are largely ideas that we might have piloted somewhere or that we might have tested somewhere, and as I said, we've developed conviction on. Those innovation teams are largely embedded into our business units. The other type of innovation, maybe more in the crypto space, things that we don't yet know. We want to fiddle around. We want to try things. So we have a research and development team. We also have specific R&D teams. Crypto happens to be one of them. We've got a team of people now focused on what we call agentic commerce enabled by generative AI. We can talk about that if it's helpful, where we specifically don't want them to build things that are ready for billions of people. We want them to fail fast. We want them to be trying lots of different things that we're going to do in small areas to see if we can find some product market fit that we can then build conviction on and then take and push out across our network, across all of our countries around the world. So we end up pursuing it in two different paths.
Does it transition from one team to the other team
absolutely.
before it goes out as well?
Once we start to build conviction, find product market fit, we'll then feed that into kind of our primary product and engineering teams who are really armed to build great products that are going to change the world, but they have to be robust and we have to execute with excellence and ensure that we've got reliability and stability and engineered into the products from day one.
You mentioned AI in there, and just where's your take on how it's going to impact your business?
Yeah, so like a lot of companies, I would assume in the room, we're using generative AI tools across our business to drive more efficiency and effectiveness. Engineering teams, sales teams, marketing teams, HR teams, finance teams, all those types of things. I think what really gets interesting to think about is how is generative AI going to change how we all shop and buy? And I don't know, but I'm developing increased conviction that it's going to meaningfully change how consumers shop for things and how consumers buy things. And I guess the simplest way to describe it is that we're all going to have an agent. That agent's going to do a whole bunch of daily tasks for us. It's going to make us better at what we do. And increasingly, that agent or your AI is going to go shop for things for you. It's going to know as much about you as you know about yourself. It's going to know the type of sneakers, the type of flat screen TVs, the type of fashion that you want. It's going to go find those things for you. And ultimately, once we get comfortable with things, it's going to buy them for you. And I think it'll develop a little bit like e-commerce developed in the very early 2000s. Consumers would go online to, Nordstrom.com, and they'd buy a pair of socks. I want to see if the socks actually make it to my house. I want to see if I can actually return them if I don't like them. And then you fast forward to 25 years later today where we are, where it's just embedded in all of our lives. And I think agentic commerce is going to go through a similar development, where we're going to ask our agents to maybe go find something for my wife for Mother's Day. And I'm quickly going to realize that my agent's much better at knowing what my wife actually wants than I am. Because, by the way, I'm going to give it access to her social graph. It's going to have access to her Instagram account. It's going to have access to our text threads between each of us. It's just going to be more knowledgeable about what my wife, Angela, would like. And that'll be, maybe a couple Mother's Days from now. And then I'm going to get comfortable with the agent sourcing a couple things for her and ultimately just having the agent go buy things. And that's where we come in. It's our role as a leader in commerce to be thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead and then figuring out how do we enable all of the Visa credentials that you all hopefully have in your wallets and in your phones that you don't need to think about. They work seamlessly. You don't need to think about that if you're totally protected if something goes wrong. We need to think about how do those work when it's not you necessarily going out and buying something, for your wife or family member or friend for yourself, but if it's your agent doing it. So we're thinking about how to retool our products and our capabilities and our standards and our operating regulations and our rules to know that if an agent shows up on my behalf at newbalance.com to use my Visa card to pay for something, that it's going to work with the same level of seamless security and confidence that we all have when we use a Visa credential today.
Interesting.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Okay, just thinking about the consumer and how you speak to the consumer, what you want them to remember about Visa, and security versus just ease of use. How do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think the rising prominence of Gen Z and the rising influence of millennials is changing how a lot of us think about our brands and how we really reach out to the hearts and minds of consumers that are going to drive the future of our business. For us, it's thinking about where do we reach them. So that is much more social channels than it was TV and things like that. If you'd have told me that this last year, maybe 5 years ago, if you'd have told me this last year that we were going to do a concert with Post Malone, and the way that you could watch that concert was be in Roblox, which is a video game, and that was the only way that you could get exclusive access to this Visa-sponsored Post Malone concert, I probably would have said, what is Roblox to begin with? And I'd have thought you're crazy. But that's absolutely what we're having to do. We're having to change kind of the platforms and the surfaces to where we can reach the consumers that are increasingly important for our business. So that's one thing that we're totally overhauling. The second thing is I guess I would say just what's the message we want to give to these consumers. I think millennials and Gen Z consumers are really looking for authentic brands with believable propositions to them. And so, we've recently put out a new campaign, which is having some good success, based on the insight that Gen Z and millennial consumers, they think about their life in a series of small steps. And they want people that are going to help them step by step. Don't give me this big promise. Don't show me this big luxurious kind of view of the world that I can get to. Help me get through tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And we think we're uniquely in a position to help people with those small steps. Help them with transactions and help them with that next purchase and help them reach that next step of what they're trying to get to. So trying to be authentic, trying to be believable, trying to reach them where they are. And it's a journey. It's very much a journey. I think all brands right now face an important transition as these consumers age and their preferences are changing, and we're all trying to figure out how best to reach them in a way that's going to be meaningful on these various different channels.
So in your organization, you have multiple generations that are working there, all with their own nuances and such, and just wondering how you guys think about that and trying to bring younger people into the organization, assimilate them to your culture.
I'll tell you, first is get them in the office. I think the ability to truly develop in your career on a screen is very limited. And I think you can do a job remotely. It's very hard to have a successful developed career remotely. I'm a huge beneficiary from apprenticeship. I had the genuine privilege to apprentice under two CEOs before me and learn all the good and the less good that comes with that. And you just can't do that over a screen. It doesn't work. I haven't found a way to make it work. So we're trying to get all of our employees in the office or in our client's office, which is equally important for us as it is being in our office. We've developed for especially our younger leaders much more purposeful career paths through the organization to teach them the different parts of the company. So especially our new grads out of college or MBA school, we take them through different rotations through the company. Yeah, and we help choose some of those things for them, and then we help them choose them over time. And that for us, we have the ability to do that not just domestically, but internationally. I think one of the great things that we can offer as a career for young leaders is the ability to go work in different parts of the world. Go learn, how business is done in Asia, how it's done in Europe, how it's done in Latin America. So we work really hard to create those career paths, for our leaders, and as often as possible to put our young leaders in client-facing jobs. So they really understand what it means to be in service of clients, not just intellectually, but emotionally. Sitting across from a client when things are not going well, sitting across from a client when they're not getting what they need as fast as they need to get it, so that then as they work their way up through the company and come back into bigger roles back at our market support center, they've lived that, they've felt that, they've sat in that client's chair and hopefully make us a better company as a result.
All right, so we're going to open it up in a minute here, but I got about 4 or 5 rapid-fire questions for you.
Okay.
If you weren't in payments, what career would you be in?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think I probably would be in financial services because that's where I worked before this. If I wasn't in any of this kind of stuff, I'd love to be kind of in a business like your business, Joe. Serving athletics. I love to ski. I'd love to be involved in some way with the outdoor industry and skiing and hiking and camping and those types of things. Something like that would be fun.
How about you? You must travel all over the world. What's your favorite places to travel?
Well, anywhere where there's snow and skiing that I can do on the weekend. I especially have come to love Asia. Just the diversity of the experiences, the client experiences, the food, the people. I've really come to love traveling to Asia. I was there a couple weeks ago and just absolutely love it there.
So, sports guy, I understand, just from your background and everything. What's your favorite teams, players?
This is going to get me in trouble in this room for 2 reasons. Well,
You're a Patriots fan, right?
First of all, I'm a huge fan of sports. And at Visa, we're a huge supporter of sports. We're a sponsor of the Olympics. We're a sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team. We're a sponsor, longtime sponsor of the NFL. We're a sponsor of FIFA. We're a sponsor of F1. It goes on and on the list. I think we're a huge supporter of sports because we believe we get return on it. And so we love that. In terms of college athletics, I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. I went to Notre Dame. My son goes to Notre Dame. My dad went to Notre Dame. My dad's dad went to Notre Dame. My mom's dad went to Notre Dame. So, go Irish. By the way, can I just say for a second, I was a freshman at college at Notre Dame in 1993. Boston College absolutely ruined my freshman year in college. Absolutely ruined my freshman year in college. For those of you who don't know, we were kind of an unranked football team at the beginning of the season. We'd clawed our way up to beat Florida State, who was the #1 team of the season. The second to last game of the year, we beat them in what was then dubbed the game of the century. We were #1 in the country. We only had 1 team left. We traveled out here to Boston. We were favored by several touchdowns, and Boston College beat us bad. I was just telling Mr. Kraft that I'm also a Detroit Lions fan. I grew up in Michigan. I love all the Michigan sports teams, and this is, I've been waiting my whole life for this year as a Detroit Lions fan. My whole life. So, go Lions.
What's your favorite athletic shoe brand?
New Balance.
I'm done.
Kidding me? That's an easy one.
All right, we'll open it up for some questions.
Drilling down a little bit on your comment about young people.
If you don't mind, just let me know who you are, what you do. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, my name is Bruce Pursley from the Mount Vernon Company. We're a real estate developer in Boston. We have had challenges with young people in terms of work ethic, the concept of perhaps working at night on weekends. The attitude, it's not, you can't generalize about everyone, but my question to you is, how challenging do you find the thought process, the mindset, the work ethic, the feeling toward capitalism of young people? Because from our perspective, it's a workaround. It's very, very different. And from your standpoint as consumers, if economic goals are not high on their list, that affects their ability to consume.
Yep.
So my question to you is, as an employer and someone who lives off of consumption patterns in the future, are you concerned?
I think these trends ebb and flow a little bit back and forth, especially based on how tight or loose the labor markets are and how much people need jobs and those types of things. But when I'm asked by young people, like, what is going to help them be successful, I say, listen, I'm going to sound like your mother or your father, and you're going to think this is really simple, but it's not. I say work hard, tell the truth, and be a good person. You do those 3 things, you do them really well every day, especially the work hard part, to your point, it's going to make a difference in your career. And we try to hire to those things. We want to find truth seekers. We want to find people who are they believe in our purpose, and they're going to go the extra mile. And if we're serving a client where you got to be in the office 7 days a week for a couple of weeks because we have to deliver for that client, someone that wants to do that because they want to be successful themselves, they want to help the company be successful, and ultimately they want to help the client be successful. And we want people that are good people. They're there for the success of the team. They want the team to win. They know how to collaborate. And those 3 things work together, at least at our company, to define the best young leaders. And yeah, I bump into young leaders all the time who don't want to work as hard as they need to work to be successful at Visa. And they might come here and experience that and go somewhere else, and that's okay. I do think that all of you in this room got to where you are because you worked really hard. You were in the office on weekends. You were there when your leader, your boss, or your manager needed you to be. And I think it's a responsibility for us to teach that and to show that to younger employees. And the ones that are driven, they see it, they get it, they see how it shakes out in people who are promoted. And at least at our company, those 3 things for young leaders define those that are more successful than others.
In the middle, yep.
Hi, thanks. My name is Shruti, a CEO of a local financial institution and proud Visa customer, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm curious, you touched a little bit on crypto, you talked about CBDC, central bank digital currency, and stablecoin. Where do you see things headed for us? We've talked about China from an economic policy really focused on central bank digital currency. Do you see implications here in the U.S. now that we have an administration that's embracing some of those alternatives, so to speak, but becoming mainstream forms of currency?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your partnership. So just to kind of put it in context where I was talking about earlier, there's kind of the Bitcoin-like cryptocurrencies, and then there's what I was calling stable coins, which the easiest way to define that is, a $1 valued stable coin is backed by $1 in fiat currency underneath it. And you can then broadly break stable coins into 2 different types of stable coins. Ones that are driven by the open commercial market, like the ones I was referencing, or, as you were saying, those that are backed and driven by central banks and governments. And as you said, the Chinese have, I think about 2.5, 3 years ago, have probably the largest CBDC that's operating at scale right now. And then there's chatter among other central banks around the world about if and whether they'll do that. Most notably, the Europeans, the UK, the Americans. I of course have no idea, what either the new administration or the Fed or others might do. I would be surprised if America thought it was important for the Fed or some other agency to issue a U.S. central bank-backed digital currency. And the reason is because the private industry of stablecoins in the United States is thriving. Almost all of the stablecoins that have proliferated around the world are dollar denominated. If anything, the spread of stablecoins around the world has further advanced. I think the relevance of the US dollar in other countries around the world. And so it would surprise me if kind of the US government decided that they wanted to directly get into that market. It wouldn't surprise me if the Europeans decided to issue a central bank-backed digital currency. I think they've been very vocal about the fact they want to do that. They believe, among other reasons, that can be helpful at promoting the euro as a more competitive currency that's being used around the world. And I think the advice I would give any and do give any central bank who's thinking about these types of things around the world is work backwards from the end user and the market. I think it's really important that there's product market fit and a real end user need that a central bank or government would be filling by providing a central bank-backed digital currency. And I think there are, in some places around the world, there's real market needs, and in others there probably aren't. And hopefully that, among other things, is one of the things that drives governments and central banks around the world.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you.
Hi, thanks so much for the interesting discussion. My name is Odette Lenow. I'm the Dean of the Law School at Boston College. I had a question actually about sort of your interaction with the regulatory space. Listening to your discussion sort of at the beginning, it's not quite integration, but I'm seeing networky, integration-y type things, vertical, horizontal, diagonal. And I'm wondering how you think about your interaction with that regulatory space and how you think about it moving forward. I mean, with the Chinese authorities becoming more interested in the space, European obviously, and you just think about the global network of antitrust regulators thinking about antitrust issues in new spaces. And I wonder how you look at that.
Yeah, our interaction with regulators around the world is incredibly important for us. And regulators' interest in what we do is very rational. I mean, you just look at what's happened over the last 10 or 15 years with the rise of digital payments and some of the things we were talking about earlier. I think it's extraordinarily important for a central bank, a regulator, elected officials in almost any country around the world to want to understand, what is Visa doing in my country? What are the laws that govern what Visa is doing in our country? And it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're engaging with regulators and central bankers and elected officials to help them understand what we do. And that is a never-ending journey that we're on. When we talk internally about our government engagement, we say we run government engagement like a business. We have coverage plans. We view it as our responsibility to show up in capitals, in central banks, talking to elected officials to help them understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and honestly get their feedback if they would like us to be doing things differently in their country for whatever set of reasons, to take that into consideration. And that is a very, very local process for us. It's as I said, it's different in every country around the world. It's one of the most important responsibilities of our country managers and our country teams. And as I said, that'll continue for as long as I'm at this company and those that succeed us. And we view it also as our responsibility as a leader in the industry. There's a lot of great players in the digital payments space, but we view ourselves as a leader. We need to act responsibly. It's our job to follow the law in every country in which we do business, and I can tell you it's complicated. The laws are different, as you all know, in all of these different countries and territories around the world, but that's our responsibility, and we seek to lead from the front. But also, as I said, educate regulators and elected officials about what we do and why it's important, and why what we do is ultimately driving financial inclusion. It's delivering reliability, and it's delivering an economic platform that's allowing small businesses in their country to reach consumers all over the world, including here in Boston and in this room, which is a new phenomenon, which ultimately is fueling the economies of these small communities and countries around the world.
Hi, my name is Danielle Kellerman, and thank you for being here and answering our questions. I think you started touching on this. I think Americans lost $5.6 billion in crypto scams in the last, in 2023, and I'm just interested to hear how do you talk to your clients about keeping them safe? How do you educate your whole, your internal and external teams to make sure that people are safe with the rise of crypto and AI, et cetera?
It's a massively important priority for us. And there's the rise of scams and fraud in the US and around the world is an incredibly important topic for our clients and our partners and regulators and us. And it's a big part of our product development pipeline of bringing out data-driven, AI-driven scoring solutions and platforms to help identify and hopefully reduce and maybe even eliminate these frauds and scams. For those of you that are Visa card members in the audience, first of all, thank you. We appreciate your business. It's the holiday time, so thank you for your spending. But you probably have gotten an alert from your bank about a transaction that may or may not have been real, and hopefully that's comforting to you. That probably we played a part in identifying that with our bank partner, that potential fraudulent transaction. So we work really hard to do that for Visa transactions. You asked me earlier about acquisitions. We've acquired a number of fintech companies that are bringing some of the most interesting fraud mitigation, whether it's in crypto or other places, solutions to market, so that we can then distribute those to our partners. And then at the highest level, we have a extraordinarily important responsibility to keep our network safe on behalf of all of you. We are a massive target of cyber criminals all over the planet, nation states that are attacking our network every day, and so we invest literally billions of dollars in the safety and the security of this network on behalf of our clients and cardholders all around the world. And this is an arms race that's just going to continue. So we're committed to winning the arms race, putting whatever the resources are that are required to help reduce scams and fraud, whether it's on Visa transactions or crypto or account to account or digital wallets or any of those types of things. And we'll continue to do our best to help.
I think we have time for one more if anyone has one. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tristan Forrester from Climate Partner. You were talking about different fintech companies and payment companies, a lot of innovation outside of your businesses coming up. And I was wondering, do you see that as a threat or opportunity, or what would you see as a threat? Because it seems there's always new innovation coming up, and everybody thought everything's been invented so far, but it hasn't. But still, the two giants in the market are as strong as ever. So, opportunity or threat, and how do you think of that?
Yeah, I come into work every day massively paranoid. Massively paranoid about anyone in the ecosystem, big or small, fintech or tech, like whatever it is, constantly worried about what could happen. And my leadership team does the same, and their leadership team does the same. But then we try to channel that kind of all those worries, and we try to channel all of those concerns into ways that we could partner and enable what it is they're trying to do using our network. And so far, that strategy has worked for us. We play an important role in global commerce, but it's a very thin role, and people can recreate it. But if we've kind of made it available for others to build on top of our platform, they can then do what it is they want to do in service of their users to try to accomplish their mission or their purpose. So it's both, to be totally honest. And we do our best to be worried and paranoid about what could happen, and then channel that into strategies and products and solutions that ultimately can help our diverse array of partners, deliver for their users.
All right, great. Very insightful 45 minutes.
This was fun.